Hello and welcome back to Meghan and Harry Tales. I'm your host, Adrian. Before we dive into today's story, I want to thank all of you who've been sharing your thoughts and insights in the comments. Your perspectives really help shape these conversations, and I genuinely appreciate the thoughtful discussions we've been having. Today, we're diving into yet another headline that's making the rounds, this time courtesy of the Daily Mail. The article paints Prince William as being more determined than ever to cut Prince Harry out of his life. But when you look beneath the surface, it's hard not to notice the double standards and the unfair narrative being spun against Harry. And folks, this isn't just another royal drama story. This is about family, about healing, and about how the media shapes our understanding of very human relationships. So settle in, because we've got a lot to unpack today. According to the Daily Mail, William is apparently at breaking point. So much so that if anyone even mentions Harry's name in his presence, he'll allegedly throw them out of the room. Now, let's pause here and really think about this claim. Imagine for a moment two brothers raised in the same family, sharing the same grief of losing their mother at such young ages, but one is so unwilling to even hear the other's name that it sparks rage. What does that really tell us? To me, it speaks volumes not about Harry, but about William's refusal to even attempt reconciliation. And here's what's particularly troubling about this narrative. It's being presented as if this is somehow reasonable behaviour. We're supposed to read this and think, well, of course William is angry. Look what Harry has done. But let's flip the script for a moment. If this were any other family, if this were your neighbour or your co-worker, and you heard that one brother was so angry he couldn't even tolerate hearing his sibling's name, wouldn't your first instinct be to wonder what kind of healing or mediation might help? Wouldn't you think, these two need to sit down and work this out? Instead, we get headlines that frame this as William being strong and decisive, while Harry is portrayed as the problem that needs to be eliminated. Harry has consistently been the one open to dialogue, to healing, and to putting family before ego. He's spoken about wanting to repair the relationship, about missing his family, about hoping for better days ahead. Yet time and again the headlines push this idea that he's the villain, while William gets portrayed as the long-suffering brother who's finally had enough. But here's what bothers me most about this framing. It completely ignores the institutional pressures that both brothers face. William isn't just a brother making personal choices, he's the future king operating within a system that demands certain responses. The question we should be asking isn't, why won't William forgive Harry? But rather, what systemic pressures are preventing these brothers from healing their relationship? The article also suggests that William is furious at Harry's so-called return plan. But let's be honest here, and let's look at the actual facts. Harry has never once said he wants to return to full-time royal life. Not once. In fact, if you listen to his interviews, read his book, or pay attention to his public statements, the message is quite the opposite. What Harry has said, repeatedly and consistently, is that he values his family, he values service, and he wants his children to have some kind of relationship with their cousins and grandparents. He's talked about wanting Archie and Lilibet to know their heritage, to understand where they come from, to have those family connections that are so important for children. Is that so outrageous? Is wanting your children to know their grandparents and cousins really something that should spark royal fury? Instead of seeing that as an olive branch, because that's what it is, it's spun as brazen or audacious. The language used in these articles is so loaded, so designed to make you think Harry is overstepping, that he's being presumptuous. But why? Perhaps because the very idea of Harry's presence makes some within the institution uncomfortable. And let's talk about what Harry represents that might be so threatening. Harry represents independence, breaking away from an outdated system, questioning traditions that don't serve anyone well, and choosing family happiness over institutional expectations. That's threatening to those who remain inside the system, because it highlights alternatives that they themselves might not be able to pursue. Think about it this way. If Harry can step away and build a successful, meaningful life outside the royal bubble, what does that say about those who remain? It's not that staying is wrong. William has his own path and his own important role to play. But Harry's success outside the system might make some people question whether the sacrifices they're making are really necessary. The other thing that frustrates me about this return plan narrative is how it completely mischaracterizes Harry's actual situation. The man moved to California, bought a house, started businesses, signed major deals with Netflix and Spotify, wrote a best-selling book, and is actively involved in multiple charitable organizations. Does that sound like someone plotting a return to royal life? Or does it sound like someone building an independent, purposeful life for himself and his family? Now let's consider this from a different angle. Why would William feel so threatened by Harry? Some insiders suggest it's jealousy, and while that might sound harsh, I think there's something to it. But it's not simple jealousy, it's more complex than that. Harry has a freedom William will never have. Harry can speak his truth, live authentically, make choices based on what's best for his family rather than what's expected by tradition. He can criticize systems when he sees problems. He can choose his own charitable causes. He can even choose where to live and how to raise his children. On the other hand, William is locked into a future he didn't choose, burdened with the crown's weight, and unable to step out of line without massive backlash. I want to be clear here, I'm not saying William's life is tragic or that we should feel sorry for him. He has enormous privilege and opportunity, and he seems to be finding his own way to make meaningful contributions. But the constraints on his life are real, and they're permanent. He will never have the option to just walk away if things get too difficult. Could it be that William's anger isn't truly at Harry, but at the reminder of what he himself cannot do? It's easier to blame Harry to see him as selfish or disloyal than to face the difficult questions about whether the system itself needs to change. And here's something else we need to consider: the pressure William faces as the heir. Every decision he makes is scrutinized not just as a personal choice, but as a preview of the kind of king he'll be. If he's seen as too soft on Harry, if he's perceived as allowing someone to get away with criticizing the institution, that could be seen as weakness. The institution has spent decades, centuries even, maintaining its authority partly through the perception that loyalty is absolute and dissent is not tolerated. But what if that approach is outdated? What if a modern monarchy actually needs to show that it can handle internal criticism, that it can evolve and adapt? What if William's angry response to Harry is actually making the institution look more fragile, not stronger? There's also the personal element here that we can't ignore. These aren't just public figures, they're brothers who lost their mother in a very public, traumatic way. They've been through shared experiences that most people can't even imagine. The fact that they can't find a way to bridge their differences isn't just a royal story, it's a human tragedy. And here's another point worth highlighting. And this is where the media manipulation really becomes obvious. Whenever Harry extends even the smallest gesture, whether attending an event, speaking positively about the UK, or reaching out behind the scenes, it's twisted into some grand plot to worm his way back into royal life. Let me give you some examples. When Harry attended his father's coronation, instead of being seen as a son supporting his father during an important moment, it was portrayed as Harry trying to steal the spotlight or muscle his way back in. When he spoke positively about Britain during interviews, instead of being seen as someone who still loves his home country, it was characterized as manipulation or strategic messaging. The Daily Mail and other tabloids love to paint Harry as this schemer, this master manipulator who's always plotting his next move. But really, when you strip away the dramatic language and look at his actual behavior, what do you see? A man who has never stopped being a son, a brother, and yes, a prince. Someone who, despite everything that's happened, still seems to care about his family and his country. The irony here is thick. While the press claims Harry is obsessed with returning, the truth is quite the opposite. Harry and Meghan have built a life in California, with careers, projects and partnerships that give them independence and purpose. They don't need the royal machine, they don't need the titles or the money or the official status. If anything, those things have been more burden than benefit for them. But here's what's really ironic. It's the institution and the media that can't stop dragging them back into the spotlight. Every week there's a new story about what Harry and Meghan are doing, what they're planning, what they're supposedly plotting. If they really wanted them to fade away, wouldn't the best strategy be to stop talking about them? The double standard here is glaring. When William and Kate make strategic decisions about their public image, it's called modernizing the monarchy or smart communications strategy. When Harry and Meghan make choices about their public presence, it's called attention-seeking or playing the victim. When William sets boundaries about his privacy or his children's privacy, he's being a protective father. When Harry asks for the same privacy, he's being hypocritical because he chose to speak publicly about his experiences. So, when I see headlines like this, blaming Harry for William's rage, I have to ask, who benefits? It's certainly not Harry, who has long said he wants peace and seems to be thriving in his new life. It's not Meghan, who continues to be vilified no matter what she does or doesn't do. It's not even really William, who ends up looking inflexible and unforgiving. The ones who benefit are the tabloids, who get clicks and engagement from these dramatic headlines, and perhaps those inside the palace who find it convenient to make Harry the scapegoat for larger institutional problems. At the end of the day, Harry's so-called return plan is nothing more than a brother's desire for some form of family connection. The desire for his children to know their grandfather, their uncle, their cousins. But if William chooses anger over healing, if the institution chooses rigidity over adaptation, that's their choice, not Harry's fault. And maybe that's the real tragedy here. Not the media drama or the public relations battles, but two brothers who apparently can't find their way back to each other. So what do you think? Is William really as furious as the tabloids make him out to be, or is this just another case of the media stirring the pot at Harry's expense? Are we witnessing a genuine family feud or a manufactured crisis designed to sell papers and generate clicks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in to Meghan and Harry Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. I'm Adrian, and until next time, stay kind, stay thoughtful, and remember there's always more to the story than what the headlines want you to believe.